everyone, it's Karina with Kenra Professional, and I'm really excited to share with you how you can incorporate our Ultra Ash shades into your formulations to create some beautiful, cool, neutral looks like these here. So if you are interested in learning how to do this, stick around. To start this process off, we are going to begin in the blonde quadrant of our mannequin today. The goal here, you guys, is to utilize our 5 Ultra Ash, because how many times do we have clients in the salon that are pretty blonde, whether it's solid like this or they have a lot of highlight work going on and they want to go back to their natural color. So with this first process, we are going to begin with our filler, and then we're going to utilize that 5 Ultra Ash to really bring her back to her natural color, as well as cut out a lot of warmth as we're bringing her back down to that level 5. What we're going to do is utilize our handy dandy level finder here, and I really just want to talk through the filling process with you guys. So you can see our mannequin is beginning at that level 10 here, and if we want to drop her to a 5, we pretty much have to re-establish the underlying pigment in her hair that was removed. So we're going to be taking her from a 10 all the way to a 5. The goal here with the filling application is to put back the gold, put back the orange, and a little bit of red into her hair, so that when we put that 5 over her hair, it's not muddy, it's not, dull looking, and it's overall nice and rich, and it'll last her multiple washes. So that's the idea whenever you're doing a filling process. So what's great about that 5 Ultra Ash that we're going to be using is you can see, in order to fill her to a 5, we have to put a lot of red back in her hair. So that 5 Ultra Ash is really going to cancel out any warmth that we have throughout this process. So we're going to go ahead and get started. For my filling application today, I'm going in with a Demi-Permanent, and we're going to go ahead and go in with that 9 GB. I'm going to do 1/4 ounce of 9 GB. I'm going to do 3/4 ounce of that 6C. What this is really showcasing, you guys, is where these colors live on the color wheel. Okay, so you can see that 6C has that orange to reestablish that level 6, and then the 9 GB is going to have yellow orange in it. So we're getting the yellow that we need to fill the hair, the orange that we need to fill the hair, and then our 6C does have a little bit of red undertone to it, so we're also going to get more of like a red orange utilizing this 6C here. So really wanted to point that out and where they are on the color wheel for you guys, so you can very clearly see. This is going to be a great way to start this process and a great formula for filling this blonde hair. We're going to go in with our Kenra Color Porosity Equalizing Spray. One, because this is mannequin hair, you guys, and it's going to absorb this color so fast. But in real life scenario, you would absolutely want to use porosity spray as well, especially over a canvas like this that has been bleached repetitively over and over again. We definitely want to make sure that there's control when we're applying this filler, because as we all know, throughout the mid-lengths and ends, you're going to have a lot of porosity, high porosity there, and we want to just make sure that the filler still absorbs as evenly as possible. So what I always recommend is really getting that porosity spray into the hair, comb it through, and then I love to start at the root area, again, for the same reason, because porosity is such a huge issue with very blonde canvases like this. So we're gonna go in and pretty much do almost like a retouch application, and we'll drag it through the ends as we work throughout the process. So really just applying it on your root area first. I did mix this at a 1:2 mixing ratio. So what's great about our Demi as well is that it is ammonia free, so you do have some control, especially when you apply it over a more wet type of canvas, which is what the porosity spray is going to do for you as well. So I chose to go in with the 6C because it has that red orange end result and tonality that I'm looking for. I did use 9 GB as well. The reason why I went in with 9 GB is because whenever you're filling hair this light, or just filling hair in general, we definitely want to take into account how many levels we're moving down in that level system. typically you can jump 2 levels without filling the hair. So if you're going from a 10 to an 8, you could technically use a level 8 and fill the hair. If you're going from an 8 to a 6, you should be able to put your level 6 on that level 8 and fill the hair, and it's still will be long lasting, still should be nice and rich depending on what tones you choose to use. Technically allowing me to drop 2 levels to that 9 nicely, and then from a 9 I can go to that level 6 with my 6C and really just get a nice rich fill. Because sometimes, right, if you use an 8C or a 9C and think like, oh, I put orange in the hair, I put gold in the hair, you still have to consider the level of depth that you're adding. So that's a really good takeaway when you're filling hair, is just always know 2 levels, more than 2 levels of a drop that you're taking someone, you definitely need to fill the hair so that you have richness and it's not muddy looking or hollow. Sometimes if you use the tone you're looking for but not the level and depth that you're looking for, that's when you'll get that hollow, almost like peachy pink sometimes fill. That's what you don't want to see. You want to see a pretty vibrant coppery end result. If you're going red, you would want your fill to look pretty close to your target. So you want it to look pretty red before going in with your final color. In this scenario, because I'm going back to like a natural brown, so we're gonna go ahead and let this process. I will bring her back once she's all rinsed out. Okay, so the next step in taking this blonde quadrant darker is gonna be adding that permanent 5 Ultra Ash. I used a 10 volume in my formula to get this beautiful pre-filled quadrant now to a level 5 that's nice and neutral and cool. So just wanted to show you guys the end result of the filler application. So I'm gonna hold my level finder up here. You can see we got her super close to that level 5 target. It's not too red, it's not too gold, it's not too orange. This is really an ideal fill when you're going to like more of a natural brown, because again, the 5 Ultra Ash is gonna do an amazing job at taking us down to this level 5 here, but also eliminating all of this warmth that we have put in. So I am going to do a standard color application for this quadrant, going in with my horizontal placement and my 5 Ultra Ash with 10 volume. I'm gonna get that applied really quickly for you guys, and then I'm going to bring her back and show you the final result. And here's the end result from our platinum quadrant. After the filler, we went in with that 5 UA and 10 volume, you guys, and look how beautiful this color came out. We got a nice neutral brown without it being warm, so it doesn't look too golden, but it also doesn't look dark and drab and too ashy either. So hope you guys really love the way this one came out. It's our 5 Ultra Ash with 10 volume. We're gonna move to the back quadrant here. So this is a great opportunity to not necessarily have to reach for bleach. You don't have to always bleach and tone these types of clients. You can definitely go in and just add some soft, subtle dimension to their hair. Now I will say color doesn't live color, so it would ideally be on a guest that comes in, never colored their hair before, and they're looking to add some really natural looking color to it, like the sun kind of kissed it. That would be a great model to do this technique on. You could also do this and then use your 7 Ultra Ash as kind of like a permanent toner over the top of a lightening service, depending on the health and integrity of the canvas. But definitely utilize the technique. I'm going in with a simple color melt, guys. This is something that I really love to do. It doesn't take a ton of extra time, and I can also, add a little extra to my ticket for this little bit of customization on my client's hair. So because we're barely shifting this hair maybe 2 levels, you can go in with this color melt technique and really just use your fingers to blend up towards the root. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do through this quadrant here. Every other section I am going to color melt. So depending on density of your client's hair and also how much contrast or diffusion that you want would be how much hair you pick up to color. So for her, I want it to be more diffused, so you're gonna see me pick up a little bit more pieces that are thinner. Okay, if I wanted her to have more ribbony, contrast, then I would pick up thicker pieces. I'd basically leave more of the hair in between, and the amount of hair that I would be coloring would be the same. It would just be a lot thicker, so it would look a little bit more ribbony. So we're gonna take horizontal subsections. You can go in, if you're doing this on a whole head, I do like to go in through the sides on an angle, and typically I'll do the back 2 quadrants just horizontal and then pivot into a diagonal as I work through the sides. But really just color melting. I went in with the 7 Ultra Ash and 40 volume because I definitely want to get maximum lift here, but also because I'm using the Ultra Ash, I'm gonna also get a lot of control throughout this process. We are going to let this process for 30 minutes, and then I will bring her back when she's all dry to show you the end result. Here's the final result for our darker quadrant. We went in with that 7 Ultra Ash with 40 volume, and we were able to really just add that really soft, sun-kissed vibe to this section. It was really, really solid, really, really dark, level 3. But now we're honestly living at a bit more of a level 5 look here. So did that nice color melt to keep it nice and soft here, and just add that very subtle brown sun-kissed end result. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. The next quadrant that we're gonna work on here is the gray quadrant. So I did go in and apply our 8M Plus to the ends here to really mimic a real life scenario where your client comes in and they might have some gray blending or a harder line of demarcation, and they're just, they're over it, they're not wanting to color their hair anymore, and they want to go back to more of a natural gray looking blended color. So I'm going to show you guys how we can utilize that 9 Ultra Ash to really help cool down the blondes to make it look gray again. So we're going to go in and do a horizontal sectioning for this, starting in that nape area. I mixed up the Creme Lightener for this and 20 volume, 1:2 mixing ratio to help me with lifting. So in a real life scenario, your clients may come in with darker color on their ends. So you may, depending on the integrity of their hair when they come in, the condition of it, you may have to up your developer to really achieve lighter results. So the goal here is to color remove quite a bit and get as blonde as possible, so that way when we go in with our 9 Ultra Ash, you'll actually see that gray tonality in the hair. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with this application. It's gonna be pretty back-to-back foil work here. The goal with gray, you guys, when you're taking somebody back to natural, is you don't wanna go in and create your own highlights. You wanna go in and find that natural flow with your client's hair. So try your best to go in and pick up those gray bits. So I can see just from holding this section nice and tight with some tension, I see some baby light grays, a chunkier piece, baby light grays, and a chunkier bit there. Those are all the pieces I'm gonna do my best to pick up. So I know it's, you can get a little crazy with this, but don't feel like it has to be completely 100% perfect. But you're gonna wanna try your best to pick up all of the gray bits. So you're going with the natural pattern and not going in and creating your whole own beauty pattern with this. So we're gonna go in and apply the foil. The trick here is you're gonna apply your lightener only from that line of demarcation down. You do not wanna hit that gray hair. You don't wanna lighten or lift that fresh hair. You really wanna work with line of demarcation down, because what happens if you end up touching the gray, it will add a gold, tonality to that, and you'll lift it, expose some underlying pigment there, because gray hair does still have underlying pigment when it's lifted, and you don't want that, because we want to work with the natural hair, and the whole goal is to get your guests to eventually not have to color their hair. So we don't want to work backwards by lightening that whole strand. So we're going to move up the head here. Try to keep these sections as clean and tight as possible so you can really see what you're working with by applying tension in your sections here. I'm going to continue this process up the entire head. I'll bring you guys back to show you how I work with the hair that we leave out. So we'll be right back. Okay, so I just completed this quadrant. I took horizontal sections, did the lightener with 20 volume. I did our cream lightener with 20 volume from the line of demarcation down only, leaving the roots out because those are nice, fresh gray. As I was working through the quadrant, I don't hate what's in between here as our low light for this application. Now, in real life, your clients are gonna come in with so many different levels here. They might have a natural level 5 as their low light or their natural gray in their hair. So you would want to mimic that. You would want to match whatever their salt and peppers are. You want to match that pepper. So sometimes your clients might have a level 8 going through here that looks a little bit more blonde. So in that event, you would definitely want to go in and match whatever their natural dark hair is coming naturally from their head. So let's say they had level 8 color through these ends. You would definitely go through all of the hair that's left out, and maybe you would use like our 6 NUA or our 5 NUA to really mimic what's coming out of their hair naturally that's the darkest color, okay? So for this mannequin in particular, I really like what's going through the ends here. It's actually mimicking what's in the root area very well. So really what I'm doing for this particular application is I'm really just highlighting throughout the hair, line of demarcation down, and then we're going to tone it to gray. So this is all going to be really dimensional and blend out that line of demarcation. So we can go underneath for a section and just see how our lightener is lifting from that line of demarcation down. So it's looking pretty good so far. We're at about a level 8. I'm going to continue to let this process because I do want to get it to a really light 9. So ideally get it a little bit looking more like the inside of a banana, not the peel, but the inside, so that we have very little warmth. We're going to let this process for about 20 minutes. We'll come back and check it and see where it's at, and then we'll bring her back before we tone. We went ahead and processed our foils here for about 30 minutes. I went ahead and removed the foils so you guys can see this beautiful blend. So there's still a slight little gold cast to the highlights, but very blended, very fine. We're gonna go in with the 9UA Ultra Ash and 10 volume and do an all over tone here. So definitely want to keep in mind whenever we are doing a permanent toner, just always making sure that the integrity of the hair is good enough to withstand the toning process. The other thing that we want to keep in mind with using a permanent, the reason why I'm able to do this is because there is previous color in between these highlights, right? If she had natural hair in between, then obviously a permanent toner would alter and shift that hair that's in between the foils. But because in this scenario we have previous color throughout the ends, it's going to be a really good option to help with cooling down and toning these blondes to where they get to more of like a gray scaled look. So I'm going to apply this formula, not deliberately on that root area, because again, we are working with the natural hair there and we don't necessarily need to tone that, it's already gray. So we're gonna go ahead and let this process, and then I will get her shampooed, dried, and bring her back for the final result. Here's the final result from our gray blending. So you guys can see how beautiful this came out. Really utilizing your lightener, doing that line of demarcation down and going with the natural pattern of the gray that's already existing in the hair. We were able to tone this out with our 9 Ultra Ash. We used 10 volume. A little pro tip here, guys, if you wanted to go a little bit more gray, like slatey gray, not as silvery, you could always add a little bit of the 7 Ultra Ash to your 9 Ultra Ash, and it'll really give it a bit more of that slate gray look. But I am obsessed and really love the way this came out. When your client comes back for the next visit, she won't have too much maintenance and not have such a hard line of demarcation. So a really awesome way to transition those clients from their gray that's been colored into just more of their natural gray tone. For our last and final quadrant, we are going to be utilizing 7 Ultra Ash, alternating that with our 9 Ultra Ash to really create this beautiful toned down neutral, like level 8, but of course it's going to be on the neutral cool side. So definitely wanted to share with you guys just how much tonality and control you can get with these Ultra Ash shades. So we're going to do her base with our 7 Ultra Ash. This quadrant is starting at about a level 8. So I think the 7 Ultra Ash is going to be great for controlling the warmth to create more of like a shaded root area, and then also going to be pulling the 7 Ultra Ash through her ends and alternating the 9 Ultra Ash. So we're going to have a really fun, cooler end result. So starting off with that classic retouch application for this. So I really want to use that 7 Ultra Ash to pretty much outline the perimeter, and we're going to color melt through this section. So really, really cool if you have, you know, somebody that wants to go lighter, maybe an 8, a level 8 is all that you could take them to at the moment, but they definitely, right, you don't want to necessarily leave your clients brassy, so this would be a good opportunity to use this type of technique as well as the formulation. So with an application like this, it's color melting. What's fun about it is you can really determine how high up or how low you want that initial root color to go. I'm gonna, you know, play with it and just have different lengths as I alternate through each section. Some of them I'll keep a little higher. Some of them you'll see me kind of feather down a little bit just to have some variation when I go back in and apply my formulas through the ends. Go ahead and pull my root color, which is that 7 Ultra Ash, all the way down. And a really cool way to modernize your color melt is to, you can leave the ends out. I'll probably go back and hit that with the 9, just to kind of keep everything well balanced. Because this mannequin has a pretty interesting hairline, I'm actually going to just carve all of that out right now, because I know I wanted to keep this part a little bit lighter around her face. So I'm going to lay that down, get my 9 Ultra Ash, and apply that to these pieces here. When you're color melting, you can go about this in a few different ways. So sometimes I've seen people that like to use their board, which is totally fine. It definitely can be a little bit cleaner of a process and overall just a little bit more time consuming, because to pick up the board and put it back down. Today I'm going to use my hand as the board to really get a nice saturation. Also, because I'm working with permanent, I really like to utilize my fingers to help with blending and melting. So I prefer to use my hands. A good way to do this to where you can work through it quickly without having to necessarily switch back from formula to formula. Go section by section and hit all of the sections that you're gonna do a 9. First, wipe your hands, come back, and apply your product. So I typically will just lay, this is gonna be my 7, so I'm gonna lay that to the side and then work with that level 9 that I'm already using. Typically when you're doing your color melting, like the root color is all the same. So you're not gonna get any, mixing of colors in that root area. So it's all about where the mids and ends fall. You could use cotton if you wanted to. I feel like with melting, sometimes it just gets too messy to add foils and things like that. But really just keeping everything separate. So this next section would be a 7. So I'm going to put this to the side and then continue with my 9. Another tip is, because the color that I'm working with is a lighter shade, sometimes I do like to melt the lighter shade in first, so I'm not getting any dark color on areas that I would want to be light. So I'm doing the lighter areas first, so that way when I go back, those are already separated and out of the way, and then I can move into the darker color with just less of a chance of getting that darker color in an area I didn't want. So I have all of the hair that I want to be lighter done right now. You guys can see that that 7 has developed, and I did leave those ends out to help connect it to that lighter piece up front. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that 9 to the ends here, and then we're gonna leave that. Now is the time where you would definitely be able to switch your gloves, wipe your hands, and then move into adding in those pieces that are gonna be a 7. So then you can work your way through color. And it is somewhat already sectioned out for you, so that's good. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue this process. Again, just to kind of recap, I'm now applying the 7 Ultra Ash to the hair that I left out. And I'm gonna let her process probably once I finish for about another 20 minutes. And then I will get her shampooed and styled so you guys can see the ends. Here's the final result from our level 8 blonde. So we went in with that 7 Ultra Ash. You guys can see how cool that one is, and it really gave us a nice shaded effect here. And then we went in and melted the 7 UA with the 9 UA and just really alternated through. This is what you see that created that just really soft, subtle dimension. It also allowed for us to work with a bit more of that cool tone and then more of that neutral 8. So really love the way this one came out. I think it gives a really beautiful end result for anybody that's looking for an ashier, cooler blonde, maybe more like that milk tea type of blonde, and but keeping it kind of dimensional without it being too solid. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this technique and you feel inspired to try it on somebody, and just overall hope you like this blonde. And here is the final result, you guys. Wow, what a difference our mannequin looks now compared to when we started, right? So I really enjoyed sharing some of these tips and tricks along with my favorite Ultra Ash formulations to help create some of these beautiful looks. So if you loved what you see today and you want to see more videos like this, leave it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Kenra Professional YouTube.